Good afternoon. Um, I will be presenting on infancy and toddlerhood. As you can see, my first slide here, toddlerhood and infancy. So the first picture depicts infancy, and the second picture depicts toddlerhood. Okay. Now, what is infancy and toddlerhood? Infancy is the earliest stage of a child's life from being born to 1 year old. And infancy is originated from the Latin word infantia, which means early childhood or literally the inability to speak. And toddlerhood is the growing child from 1 year old to 3 years old. Toddler is from the word toddle, which means to walk unsteadily. So the child at this stage do so by walking in an unsteady way. Now the key features of infancy is rapid growth. Um, Infants experience physical growth and development, which basically means they double in weight and they grow uh, double in length, so they grow rapidly. And another one is the development milestones, which basically the infants learn to regulate their bodily functions, their motor skills. They develop very fast, and they start to begin to explore and examine uh, the environment around them, sounds, and they start listening to music and little things that they can hear, and they start responding by turning their heads when their names are being called, or when they are lying down in the beds and they hear all this kind of musics and all this. And the emotion develops, so they tend to cry when they are in pain, or they tend to cry when their nappies are wet, or they want to eat, or they want to sleep. So their emotional development starts to come slowly from the first few months of their lives, from 1 year old to from 1 month to 4 months, and then move along to 6 months, where they start to eat. They leave the breast milk and they start to eat, and they start to try to experience life by trying to explore on certain things that they want to do. And their cognitive development, infants begin to understand the world through their senses and interactions, and develop early cognitive abilities like object performance. So they are able to touch an object and hold on to it, or grip an object and they hold on to it, or they try to feel like certain things from 8 months, 9 months. They touch something and they know it's hot. They don't want to touch it again, so they keep their hands away. They know, oh, hot, this is hot, or if they touch this is cold, they will continue to touch it. So those kind of cognitive development suffices. And their language development too, they start saying little words like Abba, Ah, and Ma, and Dada, all these little words that they start to develop slowly from 6, 7 months, 8 months, and they start singing. In the morning, they wake up, they start singing. So, like for my grandsons, they are like alarm clocks. Like we are still sleeping at 4 a.m. in the morning, and they are shouting and singing at the top of their voice with their the kind of language that they do, and then they are talking to themselves and at the top of their voices. So uh, this is one of the the concept of their language development, and their psychological significance. They experience relationships during infancy, which is very important because this is when their emotions start to build, for example, like trust, who they trust, and they start clinging to that person. Or they, especially mothers and fathers, they are able to identify, this is my dad, this is my mom, from that early age, from 1 month to 1 year. Now, the theory of inference that I chose is from Sigmund Freud, from 1856 to 1939. His psychosexual theory. Uh, Freud, theorists like Erikson describe development and behavior as a result of interplay of inner drives, memories, and conflicts. He emphasized the importance of early childhood experience in shaping our personality and behavior. He assumed that personality forms during the first few years of life and the ways in which parents or caregivers interact with children. So he believed that children from the early stages of life, if they are brought up in a very good environment and in a very good way, they will become very positive. But if they are brought up in a very negative environment, they will become very negative. And moving on, and that was um, that was Sigmund Freud's theory on the infant. And the next one is Jean Jacques Rousseau, his theory on toddlers. He believed that if children were born innocent and naturally good, only to be corrupted by society. So, in other words, if society is negative, the children too will be negative. So if the society is positive, the child too will also be positive. Growing up in a very good, loving environment, the child knows that he will be understood, he will be loved, he will be cared, and he will be supported. So that's what Jean Jacques Rousseau believed, that it is only society that corrupts the minds of the students. I mean, the mind of the child, if by in a way that they are not well disciplined, or they are not taught in a very good way. And he believes that we can't teach children to think, but children should be allowed to think for themselves. So, as toddlers, they learn from their mistakes. So, as they grow up, they try to learn from their mistakes. Whatever they did, they try not to repeat it again. But if they keep repeating, so a little smack or a little talk, maybe in a very hard voice, and telling them that is not right, you are not supposed to do that, that is not good. So, those kind of ways, children learn and understand what is right and what is wrong. Therefore, he said that children need to experience life for themselves. If everything is done for them, they will never be able to experience life. And he also said he supports the idea of a child centered philosophy, which involves adults encouraging and being receptive to child needs. So, we are there to provide for the children, but for children to grow up into this world, they themselves have to learn themselves in the way that we discipline them and tell them what is right and what is wrong. And that is what Jean Jacques Rousseau believed in. And the overview of both theories, for me, um, these two believe that from infancy and toddlerhood, parents and primary caregivers play an important role in bringing up the child with the help of Mother Nature. Yes, so in other words, that sometimes people do not allow their children to go outside. Oh, if they play there in the grass, they will get itchiness and all these kind of diseases and all. But like what these two said, children have to learn, they have to experience. So we have to let them go outside and play out in the sun and play out on the grass so that they can learn and know what is good for themselves, their body, and their mind. And the connection to social and cultural context, um, the toddlers, they become very curious and they try to do things like climb on the table and go here and do this and open and close the fridge, and they try and play with fire. And we as parents, we have to supervise and be vigilant to these kind of little attitudes, because sometimes these kind of little attitudes can lead to accidents. So that's what the toddlers, as they grow up, but as infants they are still babies, they cannot be in this kind of situation, but only when they become toddlers. As you can see in the picture that I have shown here, my two grandsons sitting here enjoying their rides here. And here in the next picture down below here, my grandson is trying to touch the car and everything, and the grandfather here is telling him that he shouldn't be touching this, he shouldn't be doing this, he shouldn't be this and this. So the good points and the bad points is being shown here in the picture. Now, as for my practical application, like I said in the beginning, that I have used my grandsons in trying to understand and relate the theories to the infancy and toddlerhood to my grandsons, as I have experienced as a grandmother. It's like a second time motherhood over, that I have to do the same thing that I did to my kids, but this time it's like the discipline concept is a little bit way more um, gentler than what we had with our children in the first place. So, like when my grandkids do something wrong, and I try to cover up the concept and try to be more gentle in a way that he or she, and in a way that he understands that what I'm saying is wrong and that he has to learn from that. So, as you can see here, um, the concept of applications that I have put here in the slides about my grandsons. So like what those two said about trust. So if they trust someone, the infant or the toddler, obviously they will stick to that person. So my grandsons have been with us from the time they were born till now that they are 3 year old, and they have been with me and my husband, and we have been looking after them maybe 80%, and my daughter and the husbands are just looking after them only just 20%. And I have conclude my conclusion here, and with all the references and all the things that I have used in order to use most of these photos and everything. So most of the photos are just from my album, and here's the conclusion that I have put up here. So that's just a little review of my presentation, and I hope that my presentation of infancy